What's up, everybody? This is Riley, and I'm with the Cultures for Health podcast. If you'd like to sign up and receive exclusive offers from Cultures for Health, you can text the word podcast to 1-833-760-1513. Today, we want to tell you all about our Facebook community. Hello, everybody. I'm Riley, and I'm your host today on the Cultures for Health podcast. Today, we are joined by Kara. And just give a quick introduction about yourself if nobody has heard you yet.
So I am Kara. I am the fermentation specialist at Cultures for Health. I've been with the company for about 3 years. I've been in the industry of food for about 9 years. And I really love fermentation, and I'm really excited to be here once again to talk to you guys about fermentation.
Yes, Kara's on most of our episodes, so make sure to go back through the podcast and check out a couple more episodes with her, just like our great series we just did with Sandor Cats.
10 out of 10, awesome!
But if you haven't seen the title of this podcast, today we're talking about our Facebook group, and that is just an awesome group that we have of a bunch of new and experienced fermenters, just throwing around ideas and recipes. So to start this podcast out, I'm just going to ask you a few questions about that people had in the Facebook group. So we're just going to start with Peggy, who is a new fermenter who recently asked about Kefir. They were buying Kefir from the store for a long time, but then decided after seeing us to start their own Kefir. And they just asked what was going wrong because the milk is getting a frothy head, but once she stirs it, it strained and it ran just like normal milk, despite changing the milk every 24 hours over the course of 3 weeks, going on 4. What are your thoughts and solutions on this?
So it sounds like it's not fermenting. If the consistency of the milk is like normal milk, my first guess would be that it's not fermenting. I've seen research where milk kefir can take anywhere from like 3 to 12 weeks to activate, which includes growth, includes fermentation. 12 weeks sounds like a really long time to me. I definitely have had 3 weeks, so that seems reasonable to me. Some people have success sooner, some people don't. So this isn't necessarily something that's bad. I would say I would need more information in terms of temperature, where it's located, type of milk being used, quantity of milk to grains. All of those things affect how your ferment's going to turn out. So for most of us who ferment, we know like the longer it ferments, the more it cultures, right? So 24 hours should be the mark. Our milk kefir that we have in-house ferments at about 18. We start to overculture at around 18. So 24 hours should be plenty. But if your temperature is closer to 60, 65, that may not be enough because it's a colder temperature, slower, obviously. So I would say definitely take a look at your temperature. Milk kefir likes low to mid 70s. So see if you can kind of get it in that range. And then also take a look at the milk that you're using. We don't recommend ultra pasteurized. We don't really recommend raw milk either. So take a look. Whole milk is best. I've seen people use like cream too. That's fine. It likes cream sometimes. I don't typically use cream all the time. I'll use it like once every couple of weeks because it's just kind of like a nice additive, I guess you could call it. It provides a little bit more of different nutrients. But really, I would experiment with different milks too. Like sometimes I've had issues with milks from one grocery store versus the milk from another grocery store when it was all like whole organic milk. So even brand of milk can have impact on your milk kefir. But I would say without really knowing more, always things to check for are what kind of milk you're using, change that up. What's your temperature, change that up. Fermentation time, change that up. I don't know that I would do milk kefir over 24 hours. So I would adjust my temperature before I adjust that time. But other than that, I would say keep going because it could end up okay. And it may just need more time to get moving, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah, I am still learning a lot about fermentation, but
Me too.
from but from what I've learned recently, working on some projects, is just changing it up, just trying different things, pulling ideas from all around. And I think the Facebook group is perfect for that.
Yep, that's why it's there.
Thank you for that first question. I'm going to move into Donna, who asked a question about their sourdough starter discard. The question there was they were just asking if it was safe to keep a discard jar from the sourdough starter in the fridge, and if you have any recommendations on that.
Yeah. Quick answer is yes. It's safe to keep your sourdough starter in the fridge. I have kept sourdough starter in the fridge for like up to 3 months and taken it out and had activity after 12 hours, even, like 1 feed IC activity. It really depends on how you treat it before you put it in there. I always, when I put a sourdough in the fridge, I always put it in. I get it really active first. I put it in. I feed it first. Store it so that it's eating while it's chilling, and then it's chilled and it's dormant. Because I think sometimes a mistake that people make is like they don't feed a culture before they put it away. However, like in the case of sourdough discard, like that's a different story because it's your discard. So like if you're putting your sourdough in the fridge, to store your sourdough in the fridge, I absolutely would feed it first. Your discard, like that's kind of the opposite point of discard, right? Because like that's the extra leftover stuff you had. I would say a month is probably like your safest answer. Like I said, I've done 3 months, but that was reactivating it. So if you're not reactivating it, like if you're using it in a pasta or just kind of, I guess maybe as a flavor additive, you're making crackers. I've seen people make crackers with it. There's a million things we're about to do. Some information sharing on that, but there's a million things that we can do with sourdough discard. So I would say keep it in your fridge for a month. If you're looking for high activity, like if you're looking for something to be leavened, like most of the time when I see sourdough discard recipes, I'm seeing like, I think pancakes is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Crackers, pasta, all of that stuff. That stuff's not really stuff that needs that natural leavening. Like I would not put a sourdough discard in the fridge for a month and then take it out and expect it to bake a loaf.
Yeah.
Like that loaf is just going to be flat. There's going to be no rise because like those bacteria are going dormant and they're there and they're alive, but they also need reinvigoration if you're going to use them for a leavening purpose. So I would say sourdough discard is really more for like a flavor profile.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's really just about the longer you leave it in the fridge, the more microbes you're going to lose, right? So like eventually like, I've said I've had it in the fridge for 3 months, but on month 4 it was dead, so I had to discard my discard. Which stinks, but it happens. Like sometimes like it grows so fast that sometimes it gets out of control for us. So I would say, put it in the fridge for, I would say up to a month. Don't expect anything crazy from it after that month. Because I've had sourdoughs that have molded in the fridge after a couple weeks. So obviously look for the telltale signs of mold, and what you would normally identify as problems for your culture. Do the same thing, same process. Just don't expect anything from it. Like it's a discard, so it's already like fed, run through all of its food, and now you're putting it in the fridge where it's also losing microbes. Like once it's fermented, gone back down, like the microbe count starts going down. So yeah, I don't know. My recommendation would be keep it in the fridge for a month. You could try to freeze it. I've never tried to freeze it. There's a degradation that happens there in terms of quality and microbial count, but it's possible. I wouldn't recommend it.
All right. Moving on to our last question that comes from the group that we pulled out is from Tara, who brings a question from Tara for Kara. She brings up a question about kimchi. Just asking if they could substitute fresh ginger with previously frozen organic ginger.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So totally is the quick answer. You should have enough wild, quote unquote, wild microbes from your cabbage and the other fresh ingredients that you're adding, like your radishes, your carrots, your scallions, like all of that stuff, green onions, scallions, whatever. All of that stuff should be bringing in microbes to help that ferment. So the idea, like a lot of people use ginger because ginger is like a really great microbial source. Like I'm sure you see all the time in fermentation, like put ginger in this, put ginger in this, put ginger in this. Like everyone knows what a ginger bug is. Well, not everyone knows what a ginger bug is. Ginger bug is just like a ginger sugar mixture that ferments and gets bubbly, and it's really nice and pretty, and it's used for a lot of stuff. But specifically for vegetable ferments, a lot of times people will use ginger because it brings in good microbes for that ferment. So I would say, like, if you're freezing everything, you know, like if you freeze your cabbage, you freeze your carrots, you freeze all of your components. I've done that and have had a successful kimchi. It could be a risk, you know, like you may be increasing the risk that your kimchi doesn't bounce, so to speak, like it should. It doesn't, you know, come alive like it should. Yeah. But if you have the rest of your ingredients are fresh, I see no problem with using frozen organic ginger. There's also, you know, you can freeze all your ingredients and add vegetable fermentation starters. Like I feel like you shouldn't have to, but you could. So there are ways to get around it, but if you're looking for like the true initial ferment just off the wild bacteria, I definitely would be careful with how much of what you're making is frozen, you know, because of degradation of quality of the microbes. But that happens regardless, right? Like that happens at room temperature, that happens at the fridge. I don't know that would really be sped up in the freezer. If anything, it would be slowed down because the microbes are going dormant. But if your freezer is not at the right temperature, like that can affect it, obviously. So yeah, short answer is I don't see any problem with that. I've frozen ginger before and used it in ferments and had a fine solution. I've frozen, you know, I buy a big daikon radish and I use like half of it and I put it in the freezer and then I use that in my next batch of kimchi. I've even frozen my kimchi cabbage before, but I usually always use at least one fresh ingredient to make sure that I'm introducing that wild population. But if you know, like I ferment my kimchi with a lid on it, but if you ferment your kimchi open air, that's a higher risk, right? Because then molds and other bacteria can get into it, but then you're also getting all of the wild bacteria from there. So there's like a million different questions, answers, solutions. But short answer, do what you want. I would say, like, when in doubt, do what you want, and like let us know how it goes.
Yeah, you always learn from something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you said you were just learning fermentation. I'm still learning fermentation. Like, I've been with the company for several years, and I feel like I know a good bit. But if there's anything I know that I don't know. Yeah. You know, and so you'll hear me say this time and time again, fermentation is personal, and you cater to yourself. So at the end of the day, if you don't know and you're not sure and you've never seen it, try it. Yeah. There's always someone else out there who's thought about it and they want to try it. So try it. And, you know, like that's what this Facebook group is for, is it's for people trying things like this and saying, hey, I was successful. You guys try. Let me know how it goes. Like, it's a community and we want to share that information. For sure. So like, when in doubt, try it. Yeah.
Well, we do appreciate all those questions. I know there's plenty of questions that's always circulating around the group.
And send us more. Yeah, we love the questions.
We're always there to help, and obviously it's such a large group that there's so many people out there that are willing to give their insight. And really for fermentation, there's so many insights out there that you could try out all these different things. Everyone likes something different. So
there's different ways to do everything. Like I was saying, you know, like some people freeze, some people don't. Like there's so many ways to approach every ferment. And so that's what I'm saying. Like share your experience. And if we all do that, we'll all figure this thing out together. Yeah. Which is so cool. Sorry.
You're all good.
Just being
well, talking about the group right now, I know you've been in the field for a decent amount of time now, obviously longer than a solid amount of people. But I mean, going into it and really growing in it, did you have anything like this kind of Facebook group while really growing in the field?
No. I mean, I would say, like, I'm growing in the field now, right? Obviously, like, it's a forever non-ending, I guess, experience.
For sure.
Opportunity. I would call it an opportunity, because it's an opportunity for us to learn about ourselves and about our food systems, which is why I love fermentation. But no, I don't want to say no. I didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
I think is the best answer. Like, I didn't know we had this Facebook group until a couple months ago. I've been with the company for a couple years.
Yeah.
I didn't seek out. I think fermentation, even within the last few years, has really become so big. Like, when I was in college and when I was in high school, like, I never really heard the words fermentation. Like, I made a few ferments in college, but, like,
for sure,
it didn't connect with me until I was working here that the things that I made in college were fermentation processes. And the same thing, like, as a kid, like, there were things, you know, like, I made yogurt in my neighbor's basement with the people that were living in their basement from Bulgaria when I was in high school, but, like, it never computed until I started working at Cultures for Health that that's, like, a ferment. So I didn't really, like, I started at Cultures for Health not knowing any of our products. There's scientific articles out there, there's research, like, there are companies that are well established that have really good information pages, including us.
For sure.
And so, like, I definitely read our website, and I definitely read all of the other top company websites, and I learned as much as I could, but the rest has really just been me being hands-on. So I guess in a certain sense, yes, like, I found groups, but they weren't, like, really groups that I talked with. They were just groups that I, like, followed, and I, like, you know, I followed the research people post on Instagram, so I followed other people's research and their experiments and stuff like that. But for the most part, I guess I kind of just, like, bring my educational background, you know, like, I have a degree in culinary science, so bringing that to the table, and figuring out our program today looks very different from when I started.
Definitely.
And for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm proud of our company for getting there and sharing this with people, and that's why I've been here so long, is because I didn't see this as much when I started, of, like, interacting and being a community, and I'm seeing that more and more. Like, when the company was in North Carolina, I attended one of the first, like, fermentation festivals we had in our area. And so stuff like that is happening, and that's really exciting, and there's communities coming together in that way. I've been following, there's a couple fermentation festivals that have happened in, like, Nashville and stuff like that. And I'm really happy that those communities are rising, and some of those, you know, are 6, 7, 8 years old, but I wasn't at a place back then to be able to travel and experience and really know what I was looking for. Like, I didn't know what to look for. The thing is like, fermentation is so vast, and it covers, like, so many topics and so many different things. Like, every time I have a new person come to work for us, like, I have to explain all the processes, and I try to get to know them so that they can get to know the ferment that I think would be most like them, and kind of bridge that gap. But I think it's hard making that, like, breaking into that and finding out, like, where you fit and where your place is, and what part of the community you're seeking out, you know, because there's companies that make kombucha, there's companies that make sauerkraut. Like, we're a rare exception where we're selling everything under one roof. And, like, again, that's part of the reason why I've been here for so long and that I am here for so long, is because we touch so many things. And, like, I think this is a unique opportunity for me to touch so many things, but in doing that, I think it helps us help people break into the community, the world of fermentation. And so it's exciting to see, like, these Facebook groups and all of these festivals happening. And I'm excited to be a part of it. Like, I don't want to say that they didn't exist when I started, but I think I just didn't know where to look. And so I'm hoping doing things like this podcast and, like, you know, doing things like the Instagram Live with the kombucha company last week, Rumbu, Organics, like, I'm really looking to spread that word. And so I'm hoping, I'm hoping we can be that for somebody else. You know what I mean? So, it's getting there. Like, the fermentation world is expanding rapidly, and I think we're in a really cool time to be a part of it.
Yeah, and having such a resource is really obviously something growing so fast, and that can be confusing, and Sometimes hard, hard to really do. Having that interactive group is, for what I've seen, helpful to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and when people have questions, like it's nice to have someone to like kind of validate your the choices that you're making, like using frozen ginger. Like it seems like it would work, and like it seems like it would make sense, but like it's nice to have someone say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Go ahead and try it. You know, because then you know people don't want to waste food, but they also want to try things. So it's nice to have a community that's like, hey, I've tried this before. Like, try it. I think that would be a good idea. Here's my reasons.
Yeah, and honestly, things like that, just go for it. And something great might come out of it, and it's always a perfect thing to share as well.
Sharing is caring. I say that a lot, but like sharing is caring. 100%. Like that's what fermentation is.
Yeah. Well, moving on with obviously just with the sharing part of it, from what you've seen in the group, what are some of like the most common and cool topics and recipes you've seen in the group? And when you're in the group, what do you kind of like hope to see when you're going in?
I don't know. It's really a mix. Like it surprises me. You know, you sometimes, you know, we have our top sellers, you know, like sourdough, Greek yogurt, those kind of things, water kefir, kombucha, all of those are our top sellers. And so you kind of expect those things, but it's really like, it's a wide range. I mean, I really like seeing that wide range. Like I think someone told me yesterday, I haven't been on since, you know, like last week, but someone told me yesterday that, there was like a fermented carrot cake recipe or something on there. And I was like, damn, okay, I would try that. Like, I would try that. And so, like, it's cool for me to see stuff that I necessarily wouldn't think about. Like, fermented carrot cake, the ingredients sounds really good. Yeah. And, like, I would totally try to do that. And so it's nice to see people are coming up with their own ideas, and that not only they're coming up with their own ideas, but they're sharing them with people and, like, allowing other people to try and enjoy their recipes. Yeah. So I really like seeing that. I obviously like seeing all the troubleshooting questions. Like I think people get too easily defeated by fermentation. Like it doesn't go right for them the first time. Like their milk kefir doesn't culture for 3 weeks, so they give up. Yeah. It's like, that's not the answer. Like to me, that's not the answer. Like don't give up. And so I think people don't reach out enough for answers enough. Yeah. You know, like sometimes someone will just like, oh, I did the sour cream packet. The packet didn't work. I'm never going to do this again. That was a waste of money and time. But it's like maybe there are reasons, answers, things that you can do to make it work. And so I really like seeing those things because I don't want anyone ever to feel defeated by fermentation. Like I don't want them to ever feel like they can't do it. And so this group is a great place for asking questions, getting answers, really just like figuring out, like we're all just trying to figure it out. Yeah. Like, it's ever changing. It's got thousands of years of history. It's going to have thousands of years more of history, right? Like it's making a comeback. Like, I don't know. I love seeing it all. Yeah. If I'm being honest with you, like I love seeing it all. Yeah. That's like, to me, that's what fermentation is like, this is the epitome of like what fermentation is like helping each other out, thinking of new things that we can do, you know, like it really is all about the sharing. And sometimes I see problems that I've never seen before. Like I was talking to the kombucha company, they mentioned vinegar eels. I've never heard of vinegar eels, but like it's something that can grow when kombucha has turned to vinegar and has that exposure. And that was something that I had never seen or heard of. Not even in like customer questions. So if I had gotten a customer question about that, you know, I wouldn't necessarily know how to handle it. You know, we all have unique results. Every ferment is different. And so being able to see what other people are getting, but then also being able to help understand other people's problems helps me help them. You know what I mean? Like it's all stored in the knowledge bank, right? Yeah. It's all stored. So, you know, someone may have a problem with the milk kefir today, and then a couple weeks down the line, someone else is going to have that problem. So that someone else can go through the Facebook group, but I can also go through the Facebook group and help them. Or I can say, oh, you know what? I diagnosed that problem a couple weeks ago. Now I know. Yeah. So Yeah, absolutely. Like, keep posting your recipes, keep posting your questions. Like, everyone is here for it. Like, it's tips, tricks, and recipes, but like, don't be afraid to say, hey, it's not working, I need help.
Yeah.
Because it may not be you. Like, it could be the ferment. You know, I think at the end of the day, we need to remember that these things are alive and they have preferences, and we need to cater to their preferences to make sure that we are getting the maximum benefit from them. And if we're not, then like, there's someone out there that knows how to help and knows the answer. So reaching out, you know, joining a group like this is the perfect approach to getting what you need.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the carrot cake in a jar, because that's one of the recipes we put down for the conversation, and something that's been circulating around. Our theme for November has been homemade for the holidays. And I think that this carrot cake is obviously a great seasonal recipe to bring to Thanksgiving, even Christmas, to share with your family, because I was reading a lot about them, and that they taste exactly like carrot cake, even better. I've seen that a lot. So
yeah, I mean, that's like one of those things, like, you pack some jars and you give them away to people, right?
Yeah.
Like, people always do like goodies, gift baskets, giveaways, takeaways, you know, like, my sister makes, you know, like, cookie mix jars for her work team every year, something like that. Like, making, like, a jar of fermented carrot cake. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we share these ideas, and then we all expand upon them. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's cool.
It's a super cool way just to be able to show your interests, because for people that might not know that you ferment or don't know a lot about fermentation, I think after reading a lot about this recipe, it's such a cool way to really show them what you've been doing and even get them interested.
I always say too, like, we put a lot of love into a jar of fermentation. So like, if someone hands you something that's fermented, like, know that that's like a sign that they're like putting love and interest into you. You know, like, if someone, I don't know, someone handed me a homemade bottle of kombucha, I'd be like, gee, man, thanks. Like, glad you were thinking about my gut health today. Like, I'll think about your gut health next time, you know? So, like, that's just, like, I don't know, like, I feel like a little jar of fermented carrot cake is just, like, such a great way of, like, helping a friend, showing a friend that you care for them, or even, like, your coworkers or your team or something like that.
Definitely.
So, 'tis the season.
Another recipe that I saw being recently shared around was just some gluten-free Kefir muffins. Another great thing for holiday parties, something that you could bring and share with everyone. Plus, with them being gluten-free, such a great thing to bring, because obviously you never know what health restrictions are going around. So have you experienced this recipe, or have any thoughts on it?
Sounds great. 10 out of 10 would try. I haven't seen it. I'm not as active in the group as I'd like to be, but I'm definitely going to get there. I 100% would try that. I definitely think that gluten-free celiacs is growing. And you never really know who's showing up to the party. And I don't think people really realize, like, I have people in my family and my friend group who have gluten intolerances or have celiacs. And I don't think people really realize the health complications that can come if they ingest gluten. So absolutely, this is a great way for people to bake something for the holidays, you know, share that love, but then make sure that they're, being mindful of people's allergies, dietary restrictions, things like that. Obviously, like anything fermented is like 10 out of 10. So the fact that it has milk kefir in it, 10 out of 10, would do again. Delicious. The thing about like a gluten-free muffin base like this is like to me, this is a base recipe, and you know, at the end of the recipe it says a handful of add-ins of your choice. And I love recipes like that because it's really, here's a base. Do you want blueberries? Do you want cranberries? Do you want to make it holiday seasonal? You know, like add a teaspoon of like pumpkin spice to it, you know, get crazy. You know, in our recipe we say orange zest. There's so many things you can do to make this seasonal and cater to you and your likings and your family's likings.
For sure.
My challenge would be, let's see if we can do gluten-free muffins with gluten-free starter. So that you have milk kefir and gluten-free starter. The more ferments, the better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the type of person, I put a ferment in every meal, and if I can fit 2, then I've won. Yeah, that would be like, that's what I would raise is like, could I make this recipe with gluten-free starter or even like gluten-free starter discard?
Yeah.
Because you have baking soda and baking powder. So this is a place where, we were talking about discard where you wouldn't need the leavening from the discard. You could use, these leavening agents that kind of get that like sourdough taste if that's something you like. And, that's kind of a more seasonal thing this time around.
Yeah.
Around the year, this time of year. Yeah, I don't know. I would definitely make this recipe. I might. I'm going to see one of my gluten-free friends this weekend, so I actually might try this recipe because I have
timing.
I have some milk kefir to spare, so I might try this. It sounds really good.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I just have about 1-2 more questions for you. So going through the group, there's obviously like a lot of kombucha, sauerkraut, and sourdough type recipes and ideas that are always generating around. With all these different types of recipes always being shared for such popular ferments, what do you think about the different ways people kind of ferment them and create the same ferment but different processes going into that?
So I said earlier, like everyone's ferment is unique to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that goes back to like sourdough is sourdough. Your sourdough is not like this is controversial, but like scientifically, your sourdough is picking up yeast and bacteria from the air. So like my sourdough at my house is even going to be different than your sourdough at your house. Like we live in the same area, so it's probably going to be pretty similar, but like my sourdough that I'm raising here is different than my sourdough that I was raising in North Carolina because of the things that are occurring naturally. So just from like the most basic level of like things that you can't control, every ferment is unique and different. And that requires different handling. Like in warmer, moister environments, ferments are going to react different. You're not going to, in a warmer, moister environment, you may cut out 5% of hydration in a loaf of bread because the humidity is higher.
Yeah.
So that recipe is going to be different. So my recommendation is always try again. I think that's what makes fermentation so unique is that it is so unique. That's what makes it so cool and exciting is that everyone has a little bit of a different way of doing that to create kombucha. Like I was going back to the kombucha company again, I was talking to them yesterday and they were talking about how they ferment the kombucha for 14 to 30 days. Mm-hmm. I brought in bottles of kombucha today that I made on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like 5 days ago, 6 days ago. Mind you, I like tweaked the recipe a little bit. I put like twice the starter tea in it to have a little bit of extra activity. But like,
for sure.
there are different ways to get the same results. And I'm sure theirs might be a little more bubbly, have a little more thicker, a higher microbe count, gut bacteria count because they let it ferment longer. I just wanted to bring it in so everyone could taste the goodness of kombucha. Because I'm always trying to spread that love, even in the office. But it's all like, do what works for you, right? So they may have a house that's 65 degrees, so it makes sense for them to go for 14 days because their temperature is lower and that ferment takes longer. Whereas like my house could be 75 degrees, and so that 5 days would make sense in the temperature that it's in. So that's what I'm saying. Like, to a degree, our environments are all different, and that's what contributes to your ferments being unique to you, but also contributes to don't give up, keep trying. You may see recipes on the website that you can't do. You may see recipes that are like, hold it at this temperature, at this humidity or whatever, and you're like, damn, like I don't have a proofer. What am I going to do? Like, how do I hold it at 80 degrees at 80% humidity if I don't have a proofer? So make it work for you, because if you provide the ferment with the basic things, like if you provide milk kefir with milk, if you provide sourdough starter with flour, if you provide kombucha with sugar and tea and, a little bit of starter, you can you'll get those results. Like, obviously there are crazy things we can do to make it mold. Like, if you make kombucha and you forget the starter, it could mold because it's not fermenting. You know, you forget the starter, you forget the SCOBY, you just made sweet tea. Yeah. Obviously, like, you're going to have a problem there, but, like, you make the recipe and you decide you want to ferment it 5 degrees cooler for a different strain of bacteria that you're trying to get to be prominent. Try it. I mean, there are things you can do that will increase your risk of bad things, but for the most part, like, we have to adapt fermentation to what fits us, and that's how fermentation started, right? Like, you know, in Sandor Katz's book, and to plug the podcast again, he talks about all of these different regions that he's been to where they ferment cabbage. And, like, the end result is fairly similar, right? It's fermented cabbage, but, like, some people do these spices, some people do this amount of time, you know, like, some people will ferment for a week, some people will ferment for months, you know, some people will cut the cabbage into bite-sized pieces. I think there's a recipe in his book for a Croatian cabbage dish that's the whole head. Yeah. So it really is like, do you? And I think it's great that people are doing them, and that's why fermentation is here, because it helps us preserve food where we wouldn't be able to preserve and or enhance food in a way that we may not traditionally think about it, and you have to do it in a way that fits you. Like, that's the beauty of fermentation. As long as you are taking care of your bacteria, do it in a way that fits you, and share that, because, you know, someone in North Carolina might be struggling because they found a recipe from, I don't know, like, someone in Ohio, and so, like, the hydration on their bread is kind of whack, and so then, like, maybe you're from North Carolina, share your recipe, and then one day they'll try your recipe and they'll be like, oh yeah, this slaps, this is great, like, 10 out of 10 would do again. So I mean, we're all going to find recipes we like and we don't like. We all have different tastes too. Like, that's the other component of that, is, like, people ferment differently because they're looking for different outcomes, and they're looking for different flavor profiles. So, right, so, like, the 14 to 30 day kombucha is going to be a lot more acidic than the 5 day kombucha that I'm handing out on Friday. Or on Friday it will be 6-7 days, whatever. It's the same ferment, but it's the results that I'm looking for. It's the results that they're looking for. Not to say one is above the other. There's benefits to both. But it's about you. This is your experience. This is your journey. We're all trying to share. We're all trying to learn. We're all trying to get on that train. You know, I said earlier, like, breaking in is hard. Just do it, man. Yeah. Just do it. Like, it's so great. Like, you just, I don't know. Like, just jump in, and don't be afraid to be different. Like, don't be afraid to try a different process because you haven't seen it. Like, try it, share it. That's how we are where we are now, right? Like, fermentation is thousands of years old because people accidentally put something in a vessel and it fermented. Yeah. If we don't keep accidentally putting things in vessels and letting them ferment, we're never going to make that progress. Like, traditions are important and there's a place for them, but there's also a place for progression. Yeah. And so, like, don't be afraid. Like, we can do small batches. There's a way to not, like, waste excessive amounts of food. You know, like, if you're going to test a kimchi recipe, you don't need to test a kimchi recipe with 5 pounds of cabbage. You can try a half pound. You know, so there are ways to do it responsibly, but, like, fermentation is where it is because people experience it differently and live in different environments. And it's built. I say it's built. It's not built. It exists as something to cater to you. Yeah. And you have to be open and okay with that. You have to be open and okay with the idea that my sourdough bread's not going to look like your sourdough bread. Yeah. We also have different preferences for how we feed our starter. You know, what kind of crust we like to see on our loaves. You know, like, I like a dark crust. You might like a nice, light, squishy crust. You know, like, who knows? You know, and so, like, don't see someone's product and be like, God, why does mine not look like that? Like, yours looks like yours, and that's good, and that's okay, and it's cool. And if it's working for you, it's working for you. It doesn't matter that it looked like your neighbor's. Like, maybe your neighbor likes more tartness, or they're lactose intolerant, so they're fermenting twice as long to try to ferment out all those milk sugars. Like, you just don't know. So, I don't know. That's part of the fun. I obviously could go on forever and ever and ever, but, like, I think it's important that we all are experimenting and finding those different ways.
Definitely.
That's how we preserve and enhance tradition.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really could I could just go on forever and ever and ever, but I won't.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there.
Well, we always have more episodes coming up to talk about it. I know everyone listening always appreciates when Kara gets a chance to come on and really share everything she's learned and just talk more about it. So thank you for joining us for another episode.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I know there's one piece of news that you're pretty excited about. If you'd like to tell us about that.
Yeah, so to drop it, I guess, the kombucha that I made for our team is our actual new seasonal holiday kit, which I am super excited about. So this year, we've decided to start doing seasonal kits, and we decided to start with the Christmas, Thanksgiving, holiday, festive season. Go with those traditional flavors of like ginger and cranberry and like everything you think of when you think of like pie spice, like all of that kind of stuff. Orange and your cranberry sauce, if that's your thing, right? So we made a flavor kit that tastes like that. I mean, like that's what it is. So we came up with a flavor kit that has a really nice seasonal tea blend and then cranberries for your secondary fermentation. We made the kit for kombucha and June, which is great. So excited. We launched our June product this year, and so I wanted to make this will be our first flavor kit for our June scobies. So I'm really excited that we're putting those on the board for people to try. But to be frank, it's really good. I'm not gonna lie, it's really good. I have 4 bottles, I have 7 bottles sitting in the office now. I've probably made 20 bottles, and they go in 2 hours. Every time I bring it in, and people get the word, it's gone. And then a couple days later, I'll get people coming up to me where's my bottle? So when I say that it's good, I mean that in the most genuine way. This is definitely one of my favorite, it's going to rank up there with one of our, I really love our elderflower cordial kit. That's one of my favorites too. This one's definitely going to rank up there. It's fine. It's delicious. Great for kombucha and June. Try it with both. I think my favorite combination was I made June and I made kombucha and I combined them and then I added the cranberries in my secondary fermentation and everyone loved that too. Yeah. So going back to the whole make it your own, it's really delicious, but you can continue to make it your own and you can add, we sell crystallized ginger too, so if you wanted to buy, we sell those individually, so if you wanted to buy that as an add-on, there's a little bit of ginger in the tea blend, but if you really like ginger, people like ginger in fermentation, that will be available as an add-on for the flavor kit as well. So there's opportunity to make it your own, but I really don't think you need to because it's in there and it's delicious and nutritious and I don't know. I'm really excited. This is the first flavor kit that I've launched personally with a flavor profile that I came up with. So I'm really hopeful that everybody listening likes it. Yeah, so big news right there. Make sure to be on the lookout for that. Yeah, let us know. Black Friday is dropping. I think it's dropping on Black Friday. I'm pretty sure yes. We'll get a confirmation on that. But you guys will hear more about that. Just be on the lookout. But you're here to hear first. Big stuff coming. It's delicious and it's beautiful color. The tea. It reminds me of apple cider. Kind of apple cider is a little bit more murky and kind of on a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like apple cider that has a little bit of cranberry in it. Yeah, it's just it's 10 out of 10. My mother. I was talking to my mother last night and she said it looked like orange juice and cranberry juice mixed. Yeah. I think it looks like apple cider with a dash of cranberry juice in it. Yeah. But it's just great color, great flavor. Gonna be great. I'm really excited. Yeah. So you heard it here first. Come and get it. Our Facebook group is important because sharing is caring. Click the link below to find our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is called Cultures for Health, Fermentation Tips, Tricks, and Recipe Exchange. We can't wait to hear your questions and to troubleshoot your ferments. It's also a great place to share your favorite recipes and to see others. Right now, our theme for November is homemade for the holidays. So
So there's lots of seasonal holiday ferments and recipes popping up, so make sure to go and check those out. Remember, if you'd like to receive exclusive offers from Cultures for Health, make sure to text the word podcast to 1-833-760-1513. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.